All right, welcome back to the Sports Blast here on 1460 WXBR. Joining us now via the phone lines is Brian Macpherson of the Red Sox beat writer for the Providence Journal. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great. Thanks so much for joining us. Brian, I wanted to start by talking about John Lackey. He's had a ton of big performances this season for the Red Sox, and even his career if you go back with the Angels. But considering the circumstances and who he was going up against last night in Justin Verlander, that had to be the best we've ever seen him here in Boston.
Well, certainly in Boston, yeah. I mean, you forget, given the way he started his Red Sox career, you sort of forget about that guy with the Angels who pitched Game 7 of the World Series, who pitched all those big games with the Angels. But this is the John Lackey the Red Sox gave $17 million a year to. That's the guy they wanted, a guy that could go toe-to-toe with Justin Verlander. He was the ace of the Angels staff. He pitched great last night. He commanded. He didn't walk anybody. He threw his breaking ball, his slider, and his curveball with devastating effectiveness. That was easily the best, most impressive start of his Red Sox career.
Hey, Brian. Jake Peavy is getting the ball tonight. Are his previous dreadful performances against the Tigers detrimental in this postseason start?
I mean, I don't think you worry too much about individual matchups in this case. If some of those were a little while ago, some of those were where he was hurt. That's whether it's batter, pitcher, whether it's pitcher team, you don't make too much out of that sort of thing. Peavy's been a good pitcher. He knows how to pitch this lineup. They traded for him, to pitch this game. They wanted him to pitch Game 4 of a playoff series. This is the guy they went out to go and get. They love his competitiveness. They love his command. He pitched great against Tampa. And I think they feel pretty good about having Jake Peavy pitching Game 4 of the ALCS.
Hey, Brian, you compared Mike Napoli to Mark Bellhorn, the article you wrote after the game last night, and the comparison is striking. They both strike out a lot. They both hit for power and very little for contact. And Bellhorn was the owner for the Red Sox strikeout record before Napoli broke the record this season. My question is, what makes a manager stay with guys like Mike Napoli and Mark Bellhorn?
Because you've seen what they can do in the past, and you've seen that, I guess, striking out a lot does not mean they're not going to be able to deliver a big hit when the time comes. I mean, John Farrell saw Mike Napoli all year. He saw these stretches where he would strike out a lot, or he would look overmatched, or he would swing and miss at fastballs in the strike zone. And both of them still walk a lot. They're not just going 1 for 10 with 9 strikeouts. They're both drawing walks and working counts. Napoli's seeing a ton of pitches, and that's helped them. That certainly helped them get into the bullpen a little earlier. That's what the whole team's trying to do. That's part of the approach. And, when you know these guys, you know that all it takes is one swing, one misplaced fastball for them to make an impact. That's why you stick with a guy like that, because just because he's striking out, that's part of his game. That's what happens. But everything else about his game was still consistent. He was seeing pitches. He was occasionally hitting the ball hard still and not getting rewarded for it. You don't panic in the playoffs based on 10 plate appearances or 20 plate appearances. You go with the guys that got you there, because those are the guys that were the best guys over 600 plate appearances.
And with Napoli, working the count and finding the pitches he likes, do you think he takes too many and should be more aggressive?
No, I don't think so. I think he's got a pretty consistent plan. And, a lot of these guys, you could say some of these guys should be more aggressive, but they go up there. Napoli especially says all the time that he looks at them as an aggressive hitting team. It's just that they're aggressive when they get their pitch. They don't want to chase. And sometimes that means they're getting that borderline pitch that's not their pitch, and they take it for a third strike. But Napoli swings a lot, and he swings and misses a lot. It's not like he's taking a guy like Steven Drew or a guy like Daniel Nava. They're taking third strikes more often than Mike Napoli is. The way he is as a hitter, he doesn't make a ton of contact even in the strike zone. The thing is, though, when he makes contact, he hits it really far.
Brian, again on Mike Napoli, he's struggled a lot up to the point where he actually took Verlander deep last night. Do you think that the home run might have been sort of a fluke, or is it maybe a good sign that he might start putting the bat on the ball a little more as we go forward?
Well, it certainly could be a good sign. I mean, that was the interesting thing about the Bellhorn comparison, is that he was terrible, and then he got it going, and he was on fire for 6 games through the rest of the postseason. And the Red Sox would love that from Mike Napoli, because you've seen Mike Napoli in the past in the 2011 World Series. If Texas wins that World Series, he's the World Series MVP. He's right. Capable of getting scorching hot. We saw that in September. I think the Red Sox would love that to be the case now. I mean, there's no way to know. There's no way to know what's going to happen. His matchups against Doug Fister, for whatever it's worth, haven't been real good. So it still depends on the pitching he's facing. It still depends on if mistakes get made to him. But he's certainly capable of going on a run.
Now, there were a couple of lineup changes tonight as well on the Sox side. Do you like going with Daniel Nava tonight over Johnny Gomes?
I mean, Nava's been the guy against right-handed pitchers all year. It was more curious, I think, that Gomes was in there the last couple of days than bringing back Nava, because Nava's been their guy. His on-base percentage against righties this season was over 400. I mean, he's consistently been their guy against right-handed pitching. That's what he does. So I don't think it's a surprise at all to see him back in there.
And just on the game tonight, we've got Jake Peavy going up against Doug Fister. Do you think it's going to be anything similar to the first 3 games, or are we going to see it open up a little bit tonight?
I think that's the big question. I think people are thinking that there's got to be a 10-8 game in here somewhere, 12-10, or even 6-5. I guess 6-5 in game 2, but nobody scored until the late innings. I don't know. Doug Fister and Jake Peavy are both really good pitchers. Doug Fister had a better ERA this season than John Lester, so he's no pushover. He's not a guy to overlook just because Justin Verlander pitched yesterday. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if you saw another 1-0 or 2-1 game. But at some point with these offenses, you have to think somebody's going to break through. Maybe it's tonight, maybe it's another night. But I mean, both of these guys are really good pitchers, so I wouldn't guarantee any kind of offensive explosion tonight.
Brian, before we let you go, I just wanted to ask you about a specific play that happened last night. In the top of the 8th inning, Stephen Drew led off with a single and then reached second on a Torrey Hunter error. Will Middlebrooks came up with nobody out and didn't bunt in that situation. To a lot of people criticized him for that, or rather John Farrell for not giving the signal for him to lay down a bunt. Now, we know that Will Middlebrooks is not an excellent bunter, but in that situation, do you believe that the Red Sox should have bunted there?
They haven't been a real big bunting team all year. I mean, especially for a guy like Middlebrooks who hasn't done it very much, that would have been a tough thing to ask. And I believe in that situation, they're already up a run. So it's not like you're playing, if you're down a run, maybe it changes it. If you're down, if you absolutely need that run to cross the plate, then maybe that changes the equation. You try and get that bunt down and try and play for 1 run and get the guy to third with less than 2 outs. But especially being up 1-0 in that circumstance, I think you play it straight. And that's the way the Red Sox have all year. They'd be getting away from their game if they bunt there, because Middlebrooks is capable of hitting one up the gap, and that's what they wanted him to do, was hit the ball hard somewhere, and then you've got Ellsbury, Victorino, Pedroia behind him. Maybe you've got a chance for a big inning. So I think that's what they're looking for there in a situation where that single run isn't necessarily as different the way it would be if they were down a run.
All right, awesome. Hey, Brian, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right,
Brian
Macpherson of the Red Sox, of the Providence Journal, I should say, Red Sox beat writer, joining us here on 1460 WXBR. And, it's very interesting, guys, that he feels that eventually this is going to open up and we're going to see a lot of runs cross the plate eventually, because this has been a series that has literally seen every game decided by 1 run.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another tight game. I think that's the model for the series so far. The first 3 games decided by a run, solid pitching. I wouldn't be surprised if there were fewer strikeouts tonight coming from Doug Fister, but he's a different kind of pitcher than Sanchez, Scherzer, and Verlander. He'll hit for contact, but if the Red Sox are hitting the ball in the air tonight, that's a good sign for the Sox. They don't want to be hitting the ball on the ground against Fister, because that means he's on tonight.
And you know what, guys? The Red Sox are 12 for 89 this series, and that is extremely low compared to their season average of 277 this season. And you do the math with 12 divided by 89, it's 134.
They're hitting 083 against the starters.
083 against the starters, but as a total, 134 for the series. So they're struggling to get the bat of the ball, but you might see a little shakeup.
Yeah, and I mean, it's, again, I agree with Brian that we are not going to see a bunch of... we have Jake Peavy and Doug Fister going tonight, who are capable starters. They're very good starters, and ever since Jake Peavy came over to Boston from Chicago, he's been absolutely magnificent.
A big-time pitcher.
Absolutely. But I do think that and again, I think he's, when he said a 12-10 game or something like that, I don't know if I necessarily see that the way both bullpens have pitched, but I do think that it'll eventually open up just a little bit, and one starter may allow maybe 4 runs or so.
Yeah, like a 5-4 kind of game. I can kind of see it
Something
happening.
Similar to Game 2.
Right.
something like that. So it'll certainly be interesting to see where this goes. Game 4, the Red Sox have a chance to take a 3-1 lead in this series, and we thought they were down and out just this past Sunday, and now all of a sudden they're looking at a chance to really take a stranglehold on this series. Don't go anywhere, because we are coming right back with another special guest from the Providence Journal. Tim Britton will be joining us right after this. 1460 WXBR.